A lot of you think I'm really mad, don't you? A lot of you DM'd me, a lot of you texted me, and you know better because if you have my number, I thought you were my friend. And you said, boy, I bet you're mad today. Why would I be mad, by the way? I would be mad, allegedly, because the college football playoff is expanding. Very quickly, actually. The Rose Bowl finally capitulated, and the 2024 season is going to be the first time we go to not a 6, not an 8, but a 12-team playoff field. And a lot of you thought that this would upset me because you know my feelings on playoff expansion. And I've made it clear many times, and I'm not here to rehash it. I'm not here to change anyone's mind. All that's irrelevant now because we know the future. I was talking to Barrett Salia earlier today. He has kind of been on the same side of the fence as me, and I kind of agreed with what he said. He said, look, now that this is it moving forward, we got to make the best of it. You know, you still want what's best for the sport. I do. I always have. But I did want to just make a couple of points because I've seen some of you out there making a couple of points, and you're asking me to back you up, and I'll give you my opinion on this. But here's the first thing I want to ask. It may be rhetorical because I've talked to you a lot about this already, but do you know why people like me feel the way we feel? So to be clear, I mean, listen, I think we had it better back before we had a playoff, but I certainly was not a proponent of expanding to 12. But do you know why people like me feel the way we feel? Because, I mean, there are several of us out there now. It's not like you can count us on one hand. And I've asked that anytime I'm in a debate about playoff expansion, anytime I do a radio hit about playoff expansion, and I start going back and forth with the host, I stop. And I say, I think I can articulate your point of view. If you're an expansionist, I guarantee you, I can articulate your point of view. Can you articulate mine? And I have found, not so surprisingly, that not many of you can. Some of you can, and then you just disagree and we go on our merry way. But I get a lot of you, I mean, especially some of these clowns today that said, well, you just must not love college football. Yeah. I must not love college football. That's probably you being on the right track there. I probably just don't love the game. So, sweeping that aside, some of the other indictments that I get hurled my way is, well, you just must not want more football. How can more of a good thing be a bad thing? And I equate it to currency. How can printing more money be a bad thing? Well, if you respect the value of said thing, then you understand just endlessly printing more of it doesn't automatically make it a better thing. That's the way I've always looked at it. We can differ in our opinion. And then I have people who really, truly just don't think people like me understand how expansion of the playoff will give us more meaningful games. Obviously, the logic there, and we're about to see it put to the test, is sure, Ohio State, Michigan meant a lot last week, but now we can get the North Carolinas of the world to have their games mean a lot, and we can get, who else is in there? At any team really in the 8 to 20 range, we could get their games to mean a lot. Also, if you had the ability to backdoor your way into a conference championship, you think I don't understand that, and I do. I understand totally what that means. Here's where I try and meet you guys in the middle, and I'm speaking to expansionists right now, and I've just really never been able to do it. I've never been able to convince enough, I guess, that what you're trading in exchange for that is not worth the trade-off. And that really was the crux of our disagreement. Do you think it's going to disproportionately impact the regular season? I do. You don't. The end. That's where the argument normally ends. But I got tossed a few other things today, and I noticed it from like 5 or 6 different people. So apparently it was this major talking point going around the sport. I've heard before people try and make the comparison of basketball to football. And I've heard people make the comparison of the NFL to college football. I've heard all that. Okay, that's old hat. But like 5 different times today, I had people ask me, why do you think this format works? Why do you think this idea works for college basketball as a foundation and it won't work for college football? That's a different line of questioning. That's where you got to drop the pen for a second, because did you notice that word, the F word? It's one we can use on air here. They said foundation. Why does that foundation work for college basketball? I think a lot of you are picking up what I'm putting down right now, but if you're not, they're exactly right in the way they present that. They're exactly right in the way they articulated it. The NCAA tournament is the foundation for college basketball. College basketball is a postseason sport. And there is a massive dichotomy between what college football has been and what college basketball has been, because one is built to serve the end, and one is built where the beginning and then the middle part is really the meat, and then whatever comes at the end is sort of a cherry on top. And that is what has been different about college football as opposed to every other sport. You could either look at that and think it's beautiful like me, or you can look at it and say, nope, we can't have this one outlier. We need to hammer that into oblivion and make it look like everything else. And you got your way. I'll admit that. You got your way. I don't ever want to see college football become a postseason first sport. Although I fear with the steps we took today, that's where we're headed. But I want to ask you something, because I want to take a little bit different angle than just sitting here and mindlessly arguing about things that are irrelevant at this point. Boy, did you notice the outpouring of support from all the college football players today at the announcement of college football playoff expansion? No, you didn't notice that, did you? You didn't notice that much at all, did you? Didn't hear a whole lot of players talking about it. I heard nameless, faceless bureaucrats and administrators. Why? Because you just line their pockets. They should be happy. Truthfully, I should be happy because we got a ton more inventory to sell, millions more dollars worth of inventory. So if anything, I'm over there with them. I'm not of them, but I'm over there with them. All of us should be happy. But I didn't hear many players talk, at least on the record. You know what I spent today doing? I spent today talking to players off the record. Because here's what I know. Two truths right now in the world of college football. A ton of players hate this, and hardly any of them will admit it to you publicly, because that's akin to admitting that they don't love the game. That's akin to them admitting they're not all in. Whether they'll admit it publicly or not, they will talk about it behind the scenes. Not only that, I kid you not, I'm in a house with Todd Gurley earlier today, doing something for a client of ours, Verbo. And this news breaks, and Todd Gurley's sitting there. 10th overall draft pick back in, I think, 2014 or 15. So this guy is the poster child for the kind of player who would be featured on the kind of team that would be in this conversation. And I told him what just happened. He said, what happened? And I explained the format to him. What do you think he said? You think he said, boy, I wish that was around when I was a player. Boy, that's going to make college football more exciting. No, this is a former player that looked me dead in the eye and said, I'd hate that, man. I would hate that if I were a college football player. And let me tell you why. You love college football. I love college football. We don't play it. You don't really put your body on the line outside of going to Publix on Saturday morning and picking up whatever you're going to eat. You get back home, you prop up on the couch, and you're good to go. These dudes play. So you can sit there and you can say, oh, it's just one more game, it's just two more games. Do you understand if teams do not have first-round byes, you're asking them to play 17 games? You're asking them to basically do what NFL players do, and hopefully you got some NIL peanuts over there. Otherwise, the majority of you just suck it up, just love the game, just love it like us. And that love's always been there. That's what's been taken for granted. You were always able to take for granted that players are willing to go over the cliff fighting for the thing that you and I value, a championship. Why? Or even a playoff spot. Why? Because those were precious. Why were they precious? Because they were scarce. The law of scarcity indicates you can't maintain that value when you increase the overall amount. But I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. And I hope people like Todd Gurley, and I hope the players I talked to today nearly unanimously are the minority. Boy, I sure do hope that players are still willing to go over the cliff. I sure do hope that the term playoff opt-out doesn't ever become a thing. I think it will, because I think the value that you and I have come to learn to place on a playoff spot radically changes when you have not 2 times, but 3 times the amount that we currently have right now. Now look, again, I will reiterate for like the umpteenth time, I hope I'm wrong. I hope the laws of scarcity that quite literally apply in every other economic and social avenue of our society are just exempt from college football. Sure do hope that. I sure do hope, for example, that adding more of what caused the problem fixes the problem. I don't think it will, obviously, so I'm using more 50,000-foot view here, but I had someone else tell me today, you don't think that playoff will be awesome? I've never said that. Quite the opposite. I think in and of itself, the 12-team playoff will be an incredible spectacle. It'll be an incredible product. You're starting on chapter 11 of the book when you ask me that question. That's not where the conversation starts. The conversation starts not on December 1st or January 1st. It starts, or it should start, on August 31st or September 1st, that Labor Day weekend, where right now we play games that matter. No one cares about those games now. Outside of the diehard fans, you and I will always care. But I mean, I want you to think about trying to convince someone that there is a must-see game There's a must-see game right now, college football, even though I know not only can these teams afford to lose this one, they can lose one more, they can lose two more, it'll be fine. That's not the way this works. But that's where my thoughts are today. That's where my mind's at today. I am not a big fan of this, but I will support the sport, and I will hope I'm wrong, sincerely hope I'm wrong, because what I hope is, I think, going against all logic and conventional wisdom, but that's where we are. Guys, thanks for watching Late Kick. Make sure and leave a comment. I love interacting with you. But most of all, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. That's how we keep all of this free.